So hello everyone, my name is Yoav Vaxman. I'm from Coastal Carolina University, which is right behind me. This is our College of Business. Every 5 years, we do a major proposal, which we call the Quality Enhancement Plan. And so this is required by our accreditation body. We have to do it every 5 to 10 years, and it's a major change to the university. And our focus right now is on micro-credentialing. And what I want to show to you is what micro-credentialing is. And this is a word I've not heard about until maybe a year ago. And now it's becoming a very hot word in academia and also for businesses and for really good reasons. So we're going to talk about what micro-credentialing is, and then we're going to provide you some examples and then explain how micro-credentialing works in academia as well. So I'm going to begin by sharing my screen. And you can confirm that you can see this. So I need a yes from somebody.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
And then if you want to, for the duration of the presentation, you can leave your camera on or off, and then we'll do some interaction and discussion later on.
Yoav, will you be recording this?
Yeah, it's being recorded right now.
Okay, great.
Okay. We're going to begin with a definition of micro-credentials. Micro-credentials are essentially short, competency-based modules that result in a digital certificate. So what we're going to do is, essentially, micro-credentials are different in a class. You want to do it in a relatively short period of time. You should be able to do it in 4, 8, maybe 10 hours. In a short period of time, somebody can develop a competency. They're module-based, so they're highly interactive. Not your class is not necessarily highly interactive, but they tend to use a lot of digital tools. And at the end of the certification, you get a digital badge. And the badge tells everyone what you learned. And then they can also click on the badge and go to the website of the issuer, which could be the university or maybe the company that creates a certificate, and read more information about it. The unique thing about electronic badges is that they cannot be easily faked. Anyone can say that they learn about leadership, but if you take a micro-credential leadership and we create an electronic badge for you, then you can't, people can click on the badge and see where the badge came from and what was included in the micro-credential. Okay. So I'm going to try to go, this is, all right. So what is the need for micro-credential? Why do we even need it? There are several uses for micro-credentialing. One of them is onboarding, which is a term of you bring somebody onto your company, you want to train them. You want to talk about company policies, you want to talk about the technologies used by the company, and you want to do it in a relatively short period of time. So micro-credentialing is very effective in doing that. Also for career development, either your boss wants you to develop new skills or you want to excel, you want to be promoted. So in order to make your resume more appealing to companies, you can take these short workshops and develop new skills. And then also for self-enrichment, you might want to learn something new, like how to manage your time better or how to lead teams. And finally, it could be used as a marketing tool. If you're a university and you want to attract more students, which we do in the United States because we're a tuition-driven organization, we can offer little micro-credentials kind of as teasers. So I might do a micro-credential on supply and demand analysis to attract people from an economics class. Or it might be micro-credential on personal finance to attract students to our College of Business. So let's look at more details. Onboarding is the idea that business need to train people quickly. Okay. They need to train them on company policies, they need to train them on procedures, and they need to train technology. On the right side, you can see a picture. This is what training used to look like, and a lot of companies still use. The disadvantage of face-to-face training is if you only have 1 or 2 workers that are joining your company, using a lot of resources to train a few people. So instead, you can create modules online and make them very interactive and have people go through it. And you don't have to use somebody from HR or one of your management to train a small group of individuals. Also, this requires a specific space. It takes more time. So micro-credentialing solves a lot of these problems because it can be done in an online environment and at a very low cost. Career development. All of us, especially during a recession, which is what most of the world is experiencing right now, are looking for affordable way to develop soft and hard skill. By soft skills, I mean communication, leadership, teamwork, and by hard skill, I mean things like accounting or technical skills like learning how to use WordPress. So those are very useful for employers, and they're looking for people to develop these skills, but it's not enough to say that you know how to do it, you have to prove it. With micro-credentialing, you get a digital badge that allows you to prove that you complete the skill. Here's a list from NACE, which is the National Association for Colleges and Employers. And they tell you that the #1 skill that they're looking for is leadership, right? That's #1. And problem-solving skills. And they want ability to work in teams. Well, these are soft skills. Nobody has a BA or a PhD in working in teams, but you can do my credentials and show them you develop these skills. And my credential could be just self-enrichment. People want to develop new abilities, new skills. They want to improve their time management. They want to become better leaders. So by taking these short classes that are well-structured and highly engaging, you can develop these skills and also show employers that you have these skill set. And finally, as I mentioned earlier, and this is true both for businesses and universities, you can use micro-credentialing to market your product. For example, if you have Adobe Writer, you could do a short course on how to use Adobe Writer, or SAS, which is a statistical analysis tool. So instead, before making a big financial commitment, the individual can take a short course about your product. They can feel comfortable about it, and then they're more likely to buy it. As a university, I could take a section of my class, turn it to a micro-credential, and put it on the web for people to use, so they might want to come to my university or take my course. Okay, great. We talked about the need, but what is the structure of micro-credentialing? How do we design a course? Well, you need a learning management system, and there's a wide variety of them. You're probably familiar with some of them, like maybe Canvas, Blackboard. Every university uses something different, but there's actually a huge variety of LMS. You divide it into lessons. Lessons are relatively short. The recommendation may be 20, 30 minutes to go for each lesson. At the end, there is an assessment, and based on your assessment, you give a digital badge. Usually with micro-credentialing, you allow people to take the assessment more than once. So if they didn't get the first time, they can go back and relearn the material and take it again. What's a learning management system like? You might be thinking about something like Moodle or Blackboard, which is one type of learning management system, but there's a wide variety out there. For example, you have a Google Classroom, which is absolutely free, and have a variety of plugins. For instance, with Google Classroom, you can use Google Forms or Google Photos, and you can integrate all this media into your class. So a learning management system is a program that allows you to administer, build lesson, deliver content, assess, and report grades. Another one I like a lot is Thinkific, which is the one I'm using. Not only does it provide a learning management system, but it allows you to market your course, collect payments, and also use Google Analytics. All of that is included in one package. And the cream of the crop, many would argue, is Adobe Capture, which is in the bottom left, the logo for it. And that allows you to do non-linear learning, which means the students can choose their path. So they get to a point and they could say, are you going to watch this video? Are you going to read this text? Or are you going to listen to this audio? So students can choose the path that works best for them. What's a lesson? A lesson is a content area. I'm teaching 1 or 2 basic concepts. And at the end of every lesson, I want to review. Unlike traditional classes, when you might teach for 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks before doing any sort of testing, in a micro-credentialing environment, you want your testing done fairly quickly. So the student learns a few basic concepts, they read a text, they watch a video, they use some other form of media, and immediately you have the reviews. Reviews don't have to be tests. They could be discussions, they could be games, they can even be small group projects. The next component of the structure is the assessment. At the end, you want a more significant assessment. So you have these short reviews of every lesson, and before you give a digital badge, you have to assess the student's ability. And what you're really assessing is, did they develop the ability to use the software or exhibit leadership skills? So assessment could be multiple choice question, but it can also be essays, they could be group projects, it could be all sorts of things. But the idea is, once the student passes, you tell the world that they developed a competency. And the final component is a digital badge, which is an electronic badge, which is protected, which means the students should not be able to fake it. And there are different companies that provide both badges for free, or if you want to do something more complicated, you may have to pay. And those include a credible Badger, spelled with the B-A-D-G-R. Moodle itself, as many other, Blackboard, WebCT, they all have their own badges, and open badges. So you can use the badges in your existing learning management system, or you can use any of the badges that these companies provide. So we went over the structure, but how do we engage students? Every lesson is composed of elements. And the traditional element is text. We just write things, people read a textbook. That's good, but we know these days people have a short attention span, and having a lot of text is problematic. It's not very engaging for the students. So you want to combine your text with media and maybe even games, and make sure you have some more sort of engaging review at the end. So we're going to talk about each one of these elements, but this concept is known as chunking. Chunking is cutting lesson into small pieces and putting it together in an engaging and relevant way. So for the text, provide the objective. You're breaking your lesson into small segments. What's the objective? What are you trying to accomplish? Provide content. And at the end, there's a call to action. The student needs to know what they have to do next, whether it's taking a quiz or watching a video or whatever the next element is. Tell the students what the next step is. How about the media? Well, there's a wide variety of media you can use. One of them is obviously videos, and you can use it recording Zoom or Powtoon. We'll talk about these tools later on. But other tools include podcasts. You'll be surprised how many students, even young students, enjoy audio recording integrated into their lesson. And infographics, which are essentially combinations of pictures with linkable links to websites. That content should be enforced in an engaging way. In other words, the students should very quickly be reviewed to make sure that they understand the content. Make your media engaging, short, and relevant. How about games? There's a concept known as gamification, which is a word I've just heard maybe a year ago. And that's the idea of adding games to your class. Game can be a crossword puzzle. There can be a competition. There can even be a group quest where the entire team goes on a quest where they have to solve a problem. For example, we heard about the escape room in Haga in a previous workshop. That's a great example for game that enforces what the students learn. So game engage students with the material. They include competition, quests, and puzzles. Some games are built into the learning management system, and Moodle has a few of them, like crossword puzzle or Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, which is kind of a simulation of a talk show host, while others have free apps available on the internet that you can use. And if it works, we're going to try one today. It's going to be our first time trying it, so hopefully we can make it happen. And finally, don't forget at the end of every lesson, not at the end of the entire micro-credential, but every lesson you want to have a review. And the review could be a quiz, it could be a discussion, it could be a report, it can even be another game with some questions. And you want to enforce that pretty quickly. And ideally, if somebody doesn't do well on the review or a question, the micro-credential lesson will take him back to that material and have him study it again, which is known as a feedback loop. Great, so we talked about how to keep students engaged. I want to focus on the different elements of engagement. One of them is the media. Okay? So media includes videos, podcasts, photos, and infographics to keep students engaged. Okay? So one type of media is Powtoon, and I'm going to stop sharing just for a minute to make sure that I have the correct setting for a video. Okay. Hope you can hear both, see it and hear the sound. So I'm going to show you what Powtoon is, but if you cannot hear it, please tune in, tell me that you cannot hear it, and I'm going to try to fix the problem.
So, you know what it's like when you want to impress your clients with an amazing presentation? You take your graphs, add some clip art, and spice the whole thing up with some fancy transitions. But somehow, it doesn't always have the desired effect. So one day you come across one of those super cool promotional cartoons and you think to yourself, wow, something like that would definitely catch my client's attention. But then you find out that it costs like a gazillion bucks to make. So you start scouring the web for a tool that can create extraordinary presentations for free. It's just that nothing out there is just quite the thing you're looking for. This tool just moves pictures around, and this one swivels so much you get seasick. And to operate this one, you have to be a rocket scientist. Wouldn't it be cool if there was a tool that allows you to create professional-looking animated presentations and cartoon-style videos just by dragging and dropping stuff onto a page? Well, now there is. Powtoon is a new tool that is so simple and intuitive, it allows anyone who ever used PowerPoint or Keynote to easily evolve their presentation to awesomeness. Powtoon contains themes of animated characters, props, and cool transitions, which you can just drag and drop onto your slide and create eye-catching and fun presentations that can be presented in person or turned into animated videos with the click of a button to be shared on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. Now your presentations will definitely keep your audience hooked. Powtoon brings awesomeness to your presentation. Created using Powtoon.
Hi. So let me turn my video back on. So that was Powtoon, which is one of the tools you can use to create videos. There is a little bit of a learning curve with it. It's not as easy as they make look in the video, but they do provide a lot of lessons that you can take in order to learn how to use it. And there's tons of free video on YouTube on how to use Powtoon as well. Really cool tools, can really animate your class. And if you're doing anything digital, this is a great tool to use. Okay. How about Edpuzzle? This is not a great tool that can be used to create videos. Edpuzzle allows you to combine videos with quizzes. So students watch a segment of the video and they immediately have to answer a question. If they don't answer it correctly, they cannot move forward in the video. So they need to go back and look at that segment again. This is one of the basic elements of micro-credentialing. We want that immediate feedback to make sure that students are understanding what they're learning. So let's see an example of this. Hopefully this video would work as well.
Want to create amazing video lessons in minutes? Edpuzzle is your missing piece. With Edpuzzle, you can choose from the millions of videos available from YouTube, National Geographic, TED Talks, Khan Academy, and more. You can also reuse ready-to-go video lessons made by other teachers or upload your very own teaching video. Then Use Edpuzzle's video editor to create your perfect lesson. Embed your own questions to check your students' understanding. Cut sections to show your students only the most important parts of the video, and even record voiceover so you can explain concepts in your own words. Once you've finished, you can assign it to your students in just one click and prevent skipping to make sure your students don't miss a thing. When you want to check in on your students' progress, use Edpuzzle's hassle-free analytics to get all the information you need. See who still needs to watch the video, what your students responded, and their total scores. So remember, with Edpuzzle's free platform, you can make any video your lesson.
Okay, great. So we watched 2 examples of video capturing. There's another example right over here. What we're using right now is Prezi, which many of you may have used before, but what I didn't realize about Prezi until recently is you can actually have your picture in the front and the Prezi animation behind you. So you can still be talking while the video is going on, which is really exciting because you combine graphic and movement between elements like we're doing right now and still do a voiceover on that video. Okay. Another cool tool that students actually really like is doing a podcast. You can use Ardor, Audacity, Easy Podcast, or other tools to create and publish podcasts to your module. This is also a great way to attract students to your course because then you can put them on Google Podcast or Apple Podcast, and then students can listen to a sample of your course, which may lead them to want to sign up for your class. Students can create their own podcast as well, which is something I do in my class. I have students do video recording and podcast recording instead of just giving me text when they answer questions. Okay. In addition to creating video, you can do a video capture. You may have heard of Screencastify, which allows you not only to capture your voice, but also point to certain element and highlight them. Echo does the similar thing. It creates a library that you can use later on to insert videos in different classes. Loom is a very basic free tool that you can use to capture. It doesn't require a lot of learning, so if you want to do something quick, that's a great tool. But one of the best tools I'm using right now, which is Zoom. In Zoom, I can show you stuff and actually have my video right over here at the same time. And while we're doing this, I can record the video to the cloud, which is what we're doing right now, or I can record it to my computer. Zoom also has a great whiteboard function that I can show you later on if you're interested. It allows you to put things on the board, and students can put things on this white digital board as well. So you can capture your class while you're teaching it. Another really cool tool is called infographic. You can create yourself, or you can have students create it individually or in team. Canva is the most widely used tool. Venngage is not a good one. Picture chart, they allow you to integrate images with links to other websites or other information. And students like doing this. They love doing this. We try this in one of my classes. And it really brings out the creativity. They can take images from different locations, put links into that images, and create an infographic like the one you see over here on your right. So these are different elements that you can incorporate into your micro-credential course. Another really fun element is games. And there's a concept known as gamification, which is adding game to your class. A lot of you may be familiar with Kahoot, which allows people to take quiz simultaneously. But even a better application, in my opinion, is quizzes, which we'll try later on if it works. And then we're going to, what it allows you to do is students compete either individually or in teams to answer as many questions correctly in the fastest time possible. And quizzes have a lot of cool meme, which are images with kind of fun images that students see, whether they get the correct answer or incorrect answer. And it's highly engaging. If you want to go all the way, there's an app called Classcraft, which actually takes your students on a quest. This may be a little more appropriate for younger students, but college students may enjoy this as well. And finally, you can create crossword puzzles or any type of mazes where students answer question and they do it in the form of a crossword puzzle or a maze or finding words. And one example of this is Crossword Lab. All these apps have a free version. So you can pay for them, but you can also do them for free. Okay, so what's the conclusion? Micro-credentials help develop and certify competencies. The idea is you want to do in a relatively short period of time, show that somebody developed a skill. Some basic leadership skills, teamwork. They might know how to use Quicken, which is an accounting software. So at the end, they get a digital badge that shows that they developed a skill. Modules are broken into lessons. Lessons are relatively short and they're chunked, which means that they combine elements of text, media, game, and some sort of review. Reviews and assessment provide feedback loop, which means we want to make a learning experience. It's not like you got it or didn't get it, but if you didn't get it, we want to give the student the opportunity to go back and relearn what they didn't get. So that's the idea of micro-credentialing. In the class, you take the test and you either pass or you fail. With micro-credentialing, there's a chance for students to go back and learn what they didn't do well. So that is the end of my presentation. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute and have a little bit of discussion. And maybe later on, we'll try to play a game as well. So if you want to, you can bring your video back on. All right. And then let me start with a question and we open to discussion. And then later on, if you're interested, we can jump into a game as an example. So how many of you have used micro-credentials either in your university or maybe even in your own class? Has anybody used those before?
Yeah, I'm involved in something called Virtual Business Professional, which is a virtual teams project organized by the USC Marshall School of Business. Mm-hmm. And it involves students from all over the world working on a report. And that's in conjunction with several companies, Amazon, Google, Starbucks. And when they're finished, they receive a digital badge which they can publish on their LinkedIn. And I think it's received very, very well by students. And what I was interested in knowing was, or I had the impression that we had to pay to use those services. So I was interested in finding out how available, I mean, a lot of these games and all of these things are available for free. And how far can we, especially here in Europe, where there's not a lot of money at our disposal for buying the kind of licenses for these kinds of things, what opportunities have we got that we can get it for free?
So every tool that I showed you has a free version. Of course, mm-hmm. You want to make money, so they also have a paid version. But if you use Powtoon, if you use Prezi, if you use Kahoot, if you use Quizzes, they're all free versions that are really good. And if that's the only thing you use, you can still make your class highly engaging.
I meant with the digital badges.
Yeah, so first of all, depending on what type of learning management system you use, there are usually badges that are included. Open Badges, for example, has a free version that you can use as well. So there's a paid version as well. And then there's also a wide variety of basically add-ins that you can create in either Google or Microsoft that you can create free badges with. So there are a variety of free tools out there.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
A question related to that. So do you know, for example, in Canvas or Black Belt or in Zoom, do they also use these badges or not?
I'm not aware. So this is something I've learned about recently. We use Moodle at our university, and they do have a badging system, which is pretty good. I'm assuming that a lot of other learning management systems are moving in the same direction, but I'm not familiar with them. So the thing to do is either go on YouTube and look for a video, and maybe look on the internet, see if there's information about it, and just play around with the technology, and there might be something out there for you. Yana?
Is this micro-credentialing somehow recognized by the accreditation agency? Is it something that is perhaps already common?
I think the accreditations are a little bit behind.
Uh-huh.
They recognize it in the sense that they want student engagement,
Mm-hmm.
and they want to see more interaction with students, and they want a more holistic learning experience. They don't recognize it in the sense that it's not something they might consider a part of the diploma. But employers recognize it, increasingly so. And they're looking for these soft skills, looking for organizations, which could be private organizations or universities, that will help people develop these soft skills. So it could be part of your offering at your university. You have your regular classes and you have micro-credentialing. Or another approach is, let's say if you're using ECTS credits, your micro-credential might be 1 or 2 credits, where a regular course might be 5 or 6. So the way it's integrated, I think the accreditation bodies are a little bit behind in recognizing it as a legitimate learning tool, but they do recognize it as an engagement tool.
Thank you.
Okay, great questions. Does anybody else use micro-credentialing?
Well, yeah, I use certain elements of what I've seen today in your presentation, but it's not the whole story, right? So I do use quizzes, I do use a wide variety of videos, of photos, infographics, those kind of things, but not all together in, let's say, a system that results in a badge.
Yes.
But especially I was triggered by your story about the learning management system.
Yes.
Because well, currently we are preparing lots of courses for our upcoming semester. And one of the things we recognized after delivering online education in the past, well, let's say 8 or 9 weeks or so, is that students definitely lack a structure. They lack, let's say, an overview of what do I specifically need to do, as opposed to a physical offline class. They can easily ask a lecturer or professor, what do I have to do here? Right, so I'm looking for ways to offer my students an easy overview on the tasks at hand and giving them some sort of a structure to go by. And the learning management system feels like an ideal way of guiding them through their learning process. So I was interesting to find out if well, you mentioned Moodle is the one you use, and I guess it's something similar to Blackboard. Is that correct? Can I compare that with Blackboard?
Most universities have their own paid learning management system. And if your university doesn't have one, there are a free one out there. The most used one is Google Classroom. And to add to Stephanie's earlier question, I just looked it up. Google does have a digital budget as well that can integrate into a Google Classroom certificate. So there are free digital budgets out there. Everything I showed you today has a free version, with the exception of a few digital budget, but there are digital budget that can be done for free as well. And to add to your point, one of the things about micro-credentialing is students want to show that they've made achievements. The classroom for this generation is a long period of time, a whole semester. But if within 1 week or 2 weeks or a certain period of time, I can show that I develop a skill that I can then market to an employer, it gives them a sense of accomplishment and encourage them to move forward. And what micro-credentialing does different than a traditional classroom, that feedback is constantly coming in.
Yeah, so that's what makes it powerful, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes it engaged for the students. And I've read one statistic, I'm not really sure if it's true, that over 90% of students don't finish digital classroom. If you ever use Khan Academy or Udemy or Share Skills, I don't know if you use any of those, they're predominantly just videos. You watch long videos and they're missing the other elements. They're missing the quizzes, they're missing their games, they're missing a structure that you can create nowadays in digital environment, and you can do it for free.
Yeah, I recognize what you're saying. My wife happens to work for a company that offers a lot of online training, usually resulting in the option to take an exam, but they're mainly aimed at business clients. And indeed, most of them finish easily because there's a wide variety of short pieces of text, an assignment, and a video, right? So I do recognize what you're saying, where this is coming from. And there indeed, well, they receive a badge which says, well, you've completed the SQL training. You can add this skill to your LinkedIn page. And immediately their market value raises to prospective employers, right? So it's
absolutely
for sure true, yeah.
So I want to mention how you can use this in academia once more. One thing you can do is you can help market your university. So students may not commit to university, and it's important, particularly in the United States, because we're very tuition driven. For us at Coastal Carolina University, roughly 95, 96% of revenue comes from tuition, which may be quite different in Europe, when universities are traditionally supported by the government a lot more. So the only way for us to exist is to attract students. And if we create these courses, like these short modules that students can take, either for a small fee or even for free, and they can meet our faculty and see how engaging we can be, they're more likely to come on board and join our university. Or maybe I can create a module for my class and people are more likely to sign up for my class. Companies can do the same thing. They can attract people for their product or even to work in their company by creating these micro-credentials. So any other questions or discussions? Questions about micro-credentialing?
I just would like to underline what you've been saying from my own experience, that university has to start, at least I'm from a business school, so I can definitely relate to what you're saying, that for students, increasing their employability is the first thing in their minds, especially under the circumstances that we're living in right now. And through this whole pandemic, that companies have been moving more and more online, more and more to remote work, virtual work. It's important for students to be able to show that they have some skills and knowledge in that area. And so if they have these kinds of micro-credentials that they can show that they've acquired those kinds of skills, they make themselves more attractive for the market and the global market.
And that's true not only for your current students, it may be also true for your alumni. So they might be in the middle of their career and kind of stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And develop new skills rather rapidly at a very affordable rate, which can help get promoted in their company or maybe shift to their career. So wherever you are in your life, you could be 7-year-old and want to learn your skills. And micro-credentialing is a great way to do it. So are there any more questions about micro-credentialing or comments or maybe experience from your university?
I could add one comment. I'm working in an EU-funded project called Coreship, and I've talked about this with the board. We built a MOOC on corporate startup collaboration, and the next step from the MOOC, we select 30 best students, and they can join a micro-credential where we have workshops and other contents as well, and it's related to the same subject area. But in this project, we have startups and corporate representatives building it with higher education institutions, as well as the participants are from startups and corporates, and as well as students from higher education institutions. So just as an idea, it can also be for corporate representatives. You don't only have to think about students, as well as, let's say, startups, but just to keep that option as well open.
Yeah, absolutely.
Discussion.
So it could be for universities, corporation, or collaboration between businesses and university, which we need to do more of. And I know Agalia, I commend them for all the collaboration they do with businesses. It's exactly the type of experience that students need. But adding to Joanna's comment, when you create these courses, you can actually integrate live streaming as well. So the students have to finish a module, then in a given period of time, they might join a Zoom session. And then after the Zoom session, there might be a game or an assessment that they have to complete. Mm-hmm. It could be a combination of both self-taught or self-time and live streaming. So are there other questions or comment about micro-credentialing? So I want to thank everyone. I'm going to stop the recording and we're going to do a little game.